What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook. At the end of the day on Tuesday, the Packers have just wrapped up their practice at Nitschke Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'm coming to you live from New York City, where I've been following along, much like you have, most likely. And if you haven't, I'll bring you up to speed. Some nice developments for the Packers. A couple guys coming back. Ty Montgomery was back in pads today, though he did appear limited. Malachi Dupree made his first appearance back. Demarius Randall was back in pads. So getting some guys healthy, getting some guys back. The other developments, of course, are injuries that occurred during practice. Jaron Elliott dropped out. He did return, though he appeared limited. And Nick Perry had to drop out for a bit, was helped by trainers, and ended up taking a knee for the majority of the second half of the practice. So, Sean, how are you? Nicole, hello. Neil, what's up? I love when you all say hello. It's great. Lindsay, how are you? McCarthy's face. I don't know about that. I'm growing the beard, though. Wendy, what's up? Randall is back, Andrew. Yes, yes, he was back in pads, as I was just saying. So, the war of attrition is always on in the NFL, but the Packers seem to be on the better side of the ledger now. Another promising development is Vince Beagle doing some work, drill work off to the side, along with Montravius Adams doing his first work of camp, basically, since the pads came on, when he was injured in that first padded practice. So yes, I think that, on the health ledger, so to speak, the butcher's bill, if you will, the Packers looking a little bit better today. That said, the injury rate is 100%, and how you manage that going forward goes a long way to determining the success of your football team. Jared, how are you? Ernest, hello. Toledo, Ohio, what's up? Preston, how you doing? Could this be our best offense since 2011, asked David. The possibility is there. There's a lot of ball game left, obviously. I think you should read Tom Silverstein's piece, as you're going to see in the paper tomorrow or online at PackersNews.com. He touches upon, I think, that very subject, but we'll see. Axel, McCaffrey needs to stay. I tell you what, he's making a case. The fact that he caught those two punts, one of which was very difficult, a bunch of traffic, certainly helps his case. But if I've explained a couple times here and on Twitter, he's definitely got practice squad written all over him, as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people worry about guys getting picked up by other teams, but it's not likely that another team is going to use a spot on their 53-man roster to bring in a guy who they would have to teach their system and basically put in street clothes for at least a few weeks. It just doesn't seem to happen very often in the NFL. So it's a good bet that he will be on the practice squad unless, and this is always possible, one of two things happens. Either A spate of injuries hits the wide receiving core and they need him, or B, he absolutely just lights it up in preseason, makes a bunch of plays, and makes it impossible for them to cut him and try and put him on the practice squad. So, there's a lot to go, a lot to develop yet, a lot of ball game left, if you will, but it's a possibility. We'll see. Las Vegas Packers, what's up, man? Why are they going to teach the guys how to tackle? When are they going to teach the guys how to tackle? Well, I thought you saw a pretty decent improvement from preseason week 1 to week 2. Now, that said, for whatever reason, the Packers have never been one of the best tackling teams in the league under McCarthy. And whether that's going back to Bates as their defensive coordinator, whether that's Dom Capers, whatever it is they are kind of emphasizing in camp or in practices. I know the CBA is often used as an excuse, but all 32 teams have to work under the CBA, and there are certainly better teams at tackling than the Packers. But that said, you get what you emphasize, and I think the Packers emphasize it to a degree, but not probably as much or enough as other teams in the NFL do. Dom's defense is always going to be predicated upon pressuring the quarterback and creating turnovers, which is something they've done a lot of since he's been in Green Bay. But as far as, being a sound tackling team, it's never been their forte, and I think the one way you can ensure yourself of becoming that is to draft sound tacklers coming out of college. Because once you get to the NFL, there's such limited amount of kind of practice you can do, especially live practice when it comes to wrapping up, tackling, and bringing somebody to the ground. There's so little of that in the NFL on the practice field that unless you've got a guy coming out of college who's pretty polished at it, chances are he's not going to improve by leaps and bounds once he gets to the NFL, only because he doesn't get to practice it a whole lot. Hello from Denmark. What's up? Alicia Kramer is here, everybody. I hope you say hi to Alicia. Hopefully this is the year her dad gets gets looked upon favorably by the Seniors Committee of the Hall of Fame, and we finally right the wrong that has stood here for many years of Jerry Kramer not being in the Hall of Fame. Alicia, I hope the campaign is going well, and I hope your pops gets a good call is it this week? Is it soon, right? Anyway. Hi, Tammy. How are you? Somebody asked about Raji. Good. We can start. Is Janis a lock to make the team, asked Leigh. Leigh, I wouldn't say he's a lock, but I think he really helped himself last week in practice and then with the preseason game. No word yet how he looked today, but I tell you what, that preseason game really helped him. Now, a lock, I don't think you can say that with a certainty, but given his acumen on special teams and how he's coming on in practice and in the preseason, he's certainly helped himself. There's no doubt about that. Do you think we will sign a pass rusher, asks Amanda. I highly doubt it. It's just there's not much out there, not much available. We'll see what the injuries to Jaron Elliott and Nick Perry end up kind of being and how long they remain out. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say, but unless, maybe there's a team that approaches Ted Thompson and says, look, we've got this guy and you've got a bunch of wide receivers and we need a wide receiver, whatever, but I would tend to doubt it. Alicia, of course, you're welcome. The 24th. We'll all be thinking of Jerry. Hope this is the year. I really hope it happens. Does Green Bay keep Hill and drop Callahan for the practice squad? Mike, it's a very good possibility. He certainly made a case for himself. I think a lot is going to hinge on their performances in the next 2 preseason games. I think 12 makes the roster. Just barely. What will come first, the next eclipse or Clay Matthews sack? Y'all act like Clay doesn't get sacks anymore. Come on now. Who will be the top 3 in targets this year in Green Bay? Ooh, Robbie, that's a good question. Top 3 in targets. Not in catches, not in receptions, not in yardage, but top 3 in targets? Whew, doggy. I'll say Jordy Nelson, Ty Montgomery, and I want to say Devontae Adams, but I want to also say Martellus Bennett. So some combination of those 4. How the cornerbacks looking? Well, Tammy, they sounded like they looked better today. But they looked pretty darn good in the preseason game. And Demarius Randall was back today, and that's a promising development. Let's see. Any chance Cobb is this year's Sitton surprise? No, Robbie. Hawkins making the roster? He's definitely pushing for it. I think he really helped himself in the preseason game. Lot to play out yet, but right now, as it stands, I would have him on the 53. John has cheese curds. Well, that's good. Thoughts for Hundley? Trade him or keep back up for a year? Andy, I think you have to keep him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got a nibble or two, if they got a call about Hundley. But I think you got to keep him. If for no other reason, you're a Super Bowl contending team. And if Rodgers goes down for 1 or 2 games, Hundley can get you through those games. You're not getting through those games with Callahan or Hill. And Hundley can probably help you win a few of those games. But if Rodgers goes down and you have to turn to Callahan or Hill, you're almost kind of forfeiting your season at that point. And I think Hundley has been in the system now for 3 years. He knows all the checks. He knows all the protections. He knows everything. It's hard for me to see them giving that up, unless the draft pick on offer is just kind of ridiculous. If they offer a first and a third or something like that, or even just a first, who knows? But I don't think that's coming. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it did, then maybe Thompson has to think about it. What's up with House? Jim, that's a good question. He was still out today. It's a hamstring injury, and those can be tricky. You never want to bring a guy back too soon. I think the Packers, especially since a few years ago with Casey Hayward, when they brought him back a little early, and then that turned out to kind of just plague him all year. It was a real nuisance. He was in and out of the lineup. I just think since then, even before then, but especially since that that ride they took with him, I think they've been overly cautious with hamstrings for good reason. I think they have to be, because you don't want a guy, especially a guy like Devon House, a little bit older, been in the league for a while. He knows his body. They know what they're going to get from him. He was looking very good before he sat out. I don't think there's any reason to rush him back. I don't think sitting him for 2 weeks while they let his hamstring get 100%. I don't think that's not a big deal. Now, if he's out for, say, a significant amount, like a month, leading into week 1, well then I start to wonder, do you put him out there against Seattle after a month off? That's hard to see. So I think this next week will be key. Not meaning not the week up to Denver, but like basically from Denver to week 1. Like that's when I think we'll really have to start monitoring House. But in the meantime, I think it's much smarter to, err on the side of caution and make sure that hamstring is 100%. Any new word on Josh Jones? I didn't see a mention of him with a few guys coming back from injuries. Yeah, it sounded like he was out there. I'll have to make sure, and I'll let you guys know, but he wasn't listed as sitting out. What do you think on this year's roster? Super Bowl, be honest. Yeah, they're a contender. There's zero doubt about that. I think, every year there are a handful of contenders and there's 1 or 2 surprise teams. You can almost always count on the Packers being a contender, especially since Rodgers is in town. It's a big part of it is how will the defense perform? How will it hold up? And the other thing is how do they manage injuries? No one in the NFL likes to talk about it, but a big part of making a Super Bowl run is having the ball bounce your way a couple times and staying relatively healthy. Now, you're always going to be dealing with injuries. That's, I've said it 100 times. The injury rate is 100%. But it's how you mitigate it, how you manage it. Look no further than the last time the Packers won the Super Bowl. They had 16 guys on injured reserve. A lot of it is who gets injured. But if they can, stay relatively healthy, have the ball bounce their way once or twice, yeah, they're absolutely a Super Bowl contender. There's zero doubt. Thanks, John. My 9-year-old told me that joke, I think 3 years ago. Last chance for Beagle is the last preseason game. Well, yeah, but the Beagle thing is, if I'm the Packers, I don't know how much they were counting on him helping from scrimmage. Obviously, they probably expected something out of him on special teams starting out. But I don't rush him back from a Jones fracture, which traditionally has been, a very strong candidate for re-break, which is probably what happened here. It's the same injury that kept him out for 2 games last year when he was with Wisconsin, and now he's re-broken it. I wouldn't fault the Packers at all if they never practiced him, they never sat him up, suited him up for training camp or preseason, and put him on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list, which he is eligible for since he never practiced in camp. And then just let him sit for 6 weeks and make sure that Jones fracture is completely healed. Because you were never really, I don't think anybody realistically expected him to come in and contribute right away, especially from scrimmage. So, I understand that people are itching to get him out there, especially the Wisconsin connection. But I think erring on the side of caution, again, is a smart way to go about it. Now, he has been doing more in practice. He has been doing some walkthroughs. He's been doing some light drill work off to the side. Now, if that manifests itself in the doctors, as McCarthy said today, he's close. He's got 1 or 2 thresholds to pass yet. And they think, okay, he's ready. And they suit him up next week. That's the doctor's call, and then they're off to the races. But, like I said, it would not surprise me if they decided to err on the side of caution and put him on the physically unable to perform list for the first 6 weeks of the season. I read an article, Lowry out for the season, but I think it's clickbait. Andrew, you are correct. That is clickbait. All indications are that he did not have a serious injury, and that while he will be out for a while, probably won't play in this game Saturday night, all indications are that he will be good to go week 1. Now, things happen and people find things out, get second opinions, etc., but right now, that's the word on Lowry. What do you see for Joe Thomas going forward? Scott, I think he'll continue to be their probably most active linebacker. I think he's a guy they like to pair with Morgan Barnett in their nitro package because of his athleticism. He's able to go sideline to sideline. I think his limitations will be exploited by better quarterbacks. You saw a little bit of that in Washington. And, I just think while he's serviceable, he's not a dynamic player. But he's probably best suited for what they're asking him to do out of the 3 guys that they have, whether it's Martinez, Ryan, or Thomas. He's an important cog in the machine. After learning more about CTE, would you let your kid play? It's funny. I have 3 daughters, so none of them have shown any inkling to wanting to play football. So it's a discussion we haven't had to have in this house. I've always kind of come down on the side of if they loved it, absolutely I would. When it comes to CTE and football and watching football and doing this for a living, I've long maintained, and some people may not want to hear this, but I've long maintained that you have to somewhere inside of you, you have to kind of embrace your inner barbarian and know that these guys are very much modern day gladiators who are really hurting themselves for our entertainment. Now, yes, they are well compensated. There is no doubt about that. But there is zero doubt they're also, going into the arena, so to speak, and, suffering long-term effects for our entertainment. There is zero doubt about that. But yes, if my child came to me and said, Dad, I really love football. I love the game of football. I want to play. Absolutely, I'd let him play. Zero question in my mind. I mean, people are injured and hurt and killed and all sorts of stuff in millions of different ways each and every day. I mean, heck, living in New York City, all I got to do is turn on the local news to see people like getting maimed and hurt and having lives altered in a variety of different ways, walking down the street, etc. And that's not to trivialize what the NFL players are doing or going through, or any football player. But yeah, if it's something you love and it's something you want to do and you're passionate about it, absolutely, kid, go for it. Sorry, that was a bit of a rambling expose there. Barclay is trash. Andy, you didn't see Mike McCarthy's little clip, did you? This is the attitude that just destroys me. It really does. Don Barclay may not be, Joe Thomas. Heck, he may not be Corey Linsley, but he's a pretty darn good football player. And just because he's not as good as some other guys doesn't mean he's trash. And also, he's really damn serviceable. He can play 5 spots along your offensive line, and he's pretty darn cheap, comparatively. So, Barclay being hurt is a pretty significant issue. And you can dismiss it and say he's trash or whatever, but he's still better than everyone else they've got back there at center. So, you call him what you want, but I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Let's see. Most of us in the comments could obviously play better. See, now that is straight up ignorance. What happened to all the Blake Martinez hype from last season? Well, yeah, he started to play, and then people saw a video of him playing. Look, I think Martinez is improved, and I think he's a serviceable piece of the defense. He's got limitations, and he's still making, some mistakes. You saw one of them blatantly in Washington where he really misjudged the speed of the back getting to the edge. Now, granted, it was a very fast running back. Maybe that happens. It's going to happen. But, he's struggled in some areas, and I think he's very good at what they ask him to do, but what they ask him to do is limited. Surprise cuts? Well, if I knew, it wouldn't be a surprise. But I will say, I was asked about this on the radio this morning, and I'll say what I said then. Everyone wants to know who the Josh Sitton is going to be. Who's this year's Josh Sitton? And with Josh Sitton, myself, a couple other people, we had heard rumblings about Sitton and the locker room and McCarthy for at least a year. We knew there was friction there. And so when he was cut, I was surprised at the cut, but I wasn't surprised that it was Sitton or that, that it had gotten that bad, because we had heard stuff. We had heard rumblings. There hasn't been any rumblings about anybody like that. Whether it's, whoever you want, with Cobb Matthews, Randall Cobb, guys who I know fans want cut or traded because of their contract. But, those guys are total pros and absolutely loved in the locker room, and there's zero friction. So when it comes to a surprise Josh Sitton-like cut, I don't see anything like that this year. Now, I say that and smash cut to Cuts Day and they'll cut Jordy Nelson because he said he wanted to go farming or something. I don't know. That was a joke, by the way. Dupree and McCaffrey, practice squad, I think. Yeah, I think there's a good possibility for both of those. Dupree mostly because he was a draft pick and he's got a lot of potential. He's done precious little so far in camp. Obviously, he's been out a long time with a concussion, but he's back now. David, what's up? Let's see, dinner time and adult beverages. Oh, Keith, I'm telling you, man, that's right up. That's next for me. That is next. Let's see, what else we got? Charles Leigh, nice. Predict the Packers record? Not until after the last preseason game. How's Josh Jones? He was back at practice, so apparently okay. Very excited for Rodgers having 2 huge tight ends to throw to this year. Yeah, you should be. Steve, how are you? What is the uproar about? Lloyd, I wish I knew. Montravius Adams update. He did a little bit today, probably the most he's done pretty much all camp. Still not in pads, but it's a positive step. So we'll see. What's wrong with Perry? Bill, we didn't get an update, obviously. Hi, Joan. obviously, McCarthy talks before practice. This is by design, so he doesn't have to give any updates after practice. Perry did drop out, though, and talk with trainers, took a knee, didn't complete practice. So, obviously, we'll have to wait till tomorrow. I believe practice is like, I think, 12:15 Central. So we'll talk to McCarthy prior to that, and hopefully we'll get an update then. Patriots or Raiders in the AFC? Oh, it's got to be Patriots. Man, the Raiders are going to have to score 45 points a game with that defense. Let's see. Lloyd, you're welcome. Why was J.C. Treader traded? He wasn't traded, James. He was a free agent. You can only pay so many guys. They let him walk knowing that he was going to get paid. The Cleveland Browns paid him a boatload of money. That's why he was allowed to walk, because they knew they couldn't sign him. They knew that he was going to hit free agency and get paid, and that obviously his people knew that, and that's why they said, look, we're going to go take our chances on the market. And that's why he went. And he went to Cleveland, and apparently he's doing very well there. How about Lowry David? I mentioned it a little bit ago. So far, all signs point to him having escaped any kind of serious injury. The Packers obviously don't have to say anything in preseason, so they won't give us any updates, but all indications are that he'll be good to go week 1. I live in Denver, only preseason, but please beat the Broncos. Man, it doesn't matter. Hey, Andrea. How's the spring? You help keep connected to all things. Oh, that's very nice of you to say. Thanks very much. How's Price looking? Oh, I thought he had a good game in Washington. Obviously, I didn't see practice today, but I think he's had a strong camp. He's not a guy who makes like a lot of flash plays. He doesn't like flash into the backfield or things like that. He's not a slasher. He's a guy who he's a strong dude. And if you read on PackersNews.com, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Tom Silverstein did a piece on him and how he wants to like really take his game to the next level in regards to the assignments and the thinking guys part of the game, rather than just relying on his brute strength all the time. And I think you saw kind of a little bit of that in the second half against the Redskins. But we'll see. I think the thing that helps him now is they're so thin, but they are down a couple bodies along the defensive line. The more he's out there and the more tape he gives them, the better his chances, of just sticking around, period. But I don't ever see him as a major contributor, but he's definitely someone who could be there as kind of a really good depth guy. Everyone was asking about McCarthy's face. Did that ever get answered? Oh, McCarthy's face today in the press conference. Yes, he went to the dermatologist and had some work done. Had some things removed. I know, I said it looked like he fought with a bear. We should have got Doomerville. Ronnie, I couldn't agree more. I do wonder how much the lack of activity in bolstering the pass rush this offseason will come back to haunt the Packers. Obviously, Dom Capers will have to rely on his blitz packages, and that has worked for them before. But their inability to get to the quarterback with only 4, I think, is going to haunt them all year. Has there been any contract extension talk with Adams? I doubt it. We haven't heard of any, and I asked his agent last week when I was still back in Green Bay. They said, the Packers have been totally quiet, and that's kind of to be expected. That's how the Packers operate. And you know what? I got to say, I wouldn't be surprised if Adams and his people just said, look, we'll talk to you after the season, and even then probably try to get to free agency, because just look at the deals some of these wide receivers sign in free agency. I mean, now look at Devontae Adams and the year he put up last year, and think of the year he could have this year. That guy, if he does hit the market, he could make so much money. So, if the Packers are going to try and retain him, they're going to have to pay him a lot. And then you get to the point of, okay, well, now you're paying Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, and Randall Cobb. That's a lot of money to tie up in wide receiver. But we'll see. I mean, they already are the team with the most invested at the wide receiver position in the NFL. So, let's see. Mike Daniels looked good versus Redskins. More third down pass rush opportunities. I think so. I think that is the whole plan. And I know I asked Turgovac about that 2 weeks ago, and I know he downplayed it, but I absolutely think that is the whole point of bringing in a guy like Ricky Jean-Francois, who can do more of the dirty work on first and second down, which allows you to rest Daniels a little bit, because last year Daniels played a ridiculous amount of snaps, and the majority of those were on first and second down. So if you can get a guy in there like Jean-Francois who's going to take the pressure off, so to speak, and it allows Daniels to play more third downs, I think that's a no-brainer. So I think, like I said, while the Packers are kind of, poo-pooing that idea, I do think that's the plan. Any talk in extending Haha? Nothing yet. I think, you know, they've exercised that 5th-year option, so there's no hurry there. You know, he's not entering the last year of his deal or anything like that. Will Jones, Barnett play both inside linebacker spots at the same time? We saw a little bit of that really super early on in camp. I gotta think that was part of the install. So I'm sure there's a package there for them to go to if they want it. But we haven't seen anything since then, and you know, it hasn't been prominently featured or anything like that. Now they could be working on that behind closed doors. That's always possible. But like I said, we have seen it just once, and I tend to think later in the year you'll probably see it again. King. Everyone's asking about King. He played well. Seemed to be fine in practice. He's doing well. Part ways with Cobb and Matthews after this year. I think Cobb's a possibility. I think Cobb's a possibility to be asked to restructure his contract. I doubt Matthews is going anywhere, though. Kyrie for Isaiah Thomas. I know. They should be going crazy. I mean, can you imagine Isaiah Thomas and LeBron? My goodness. Who drinks more beer, you or McCarthy? Oh, Leigh. I am up to the Pepsi challenge there. Jones at linebacker, safety, or both? Both, Kerry. Been definitely working a lot in the nitro package, but you know, that's not to discount. He's getting a lot of work at safety as well. You keep Cobb. I don't know why everyone wants Cobb out of here. I'm with you, man. I think he adds something to their offense that no one else does. He was battling a lot of injuries last year. The ball gets spread around a lot, so he hasn't had the numbers that he had 2 years ago, but I don't think there's any reason to get rid of the guy. Let's go. Adams or Cobb? I don't have to choose. That's Ted's job. Can Jones play outside linebacker? I doubt it, Tamor. King didn't do well on special teams against the Redskins. He certainly didn't on punt return. He had a few kind of bad blocks / missed blocks. So, you know, that's definitely the tail of the tape, and that's something he's going to have to work on, or he's not going to be on those special teams. But let's face it, he ain't getting cut. So, you know, he's got to improve in that area. There's no doubt about that. Why doesn't Rodgers throw to Janis? He looks great when Hundley's throwing to him. I doubt Janis is out there a whole heck of a lot when Rodgers is out there. He throws to him in practice. Remember when people were saying cut Adams? I know Adams does. He posted about it on Twitter yesterday. Who will be the #1 cornerback? If he gets healthy again and is out there in practice, say next week, it's Devon House. I don't think there's any doubt. But if House remains out for a while, it'll be interesting. Maybe Rollins, maybe King. We'll see. Will we see Jake Ryan at outside linebacker? No. Running back going to be okay? Yes, Corey. It will be okay. I have seen everything I need to see from Trevor Davis. I'll let Ted know. Could Janis punt, and with him back there, he could provide us a ton of options for fakes? No. My predictions for Eddie Lacy. I don't have any predictions for the season, but I think he will play well against the Packers, even with Seattle's porous offensive line. I don't think he'll be featured, but I think he will play a role, and I think he will play well. You think Davis will be better than Jeremy Ross? I think he has the potential to be better than Jeremy Ross, no doubt. Are the Packers just being super cautious with Beagle, or is it that bad? Tamor, my guess is yes, they are being super cautious. The Jones fracture is notorious for re-breaking and coming back and biting guys long after their initial injury. So I think the Packers are very much erring on the side of caution here. Vogel Nick, he had a great practice today. He was aided by the wind, hit a 50-plus yarder, hit a 45-yarder, I think it was. He was great today, but again, he had the wind. Can we re-sign Antonio Chapman? I'm thinking that's my cue, and thanks, everyone. Antonio Chapman is where I draw the line. No, I'm kidding, but I do have to go. Thanks so much, everyone. I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I'll be back tomorrow, so make sure you got the notifications on. Lets you know when we're live. And make sure you're checking out everything at packersnews.com. We'll have all the latest from practice, from McCarthy, everything going forward into the preseason game on Saturday night. Thanks so much, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.